Are we okay? We got to fucking, we've got to do the fucking shit that we for fucking drug abuse. No! Are you listening?
Sean here, and I have a theory, and I think I'm correct, and I hope you'll think I'm correct too. Lorne has played the victim so long, and I genuinely think that while he was in prison, and he was speaking to his psychotherapist, he would whine and complain. He told Ramona he cried while he was in there. Again, he's a liar, an unreliable narrator, so we have no idea if he was telling the truth. I think he was. I think for the first time in his life, he was telling the complete truth. That he was crying, he had asked to be put in protective custody. There are certain privileges afforded to those people in protective custody. I think he enjoyed it, and he felt special. And as I said in that interrogation video, Lorne needs to feel special. Imagine, if you will, all of the complaining and all of the lies that he told the catfish over the year, that he hammered home, that he's convinced himself of the truth. Imagine him cramming that into 5 years in prison. Now, it wouldn't have been 5 years because it would have taken him a bit to get indoctrinated in, to understand the surroundings, and then once his case was reviewed, they would have assigned him a psychologist, a therapist. These are not people who get paid a lot of money. These aren't your, I own my own practice psychologists. These are, I wanted to do something with my life. I wanted to try to help other people, to genuinely help them. But I didn't realize when I took that job, they would say, that I would be dealing with a bunch of Lorne Armstrongs. We've discussed before that the I couldn't say no, it was about Lorne's giant I gave money stories. He selectively heard what his psychologist said, anything to get him out of the room. I think they tried at the beginning. But Lorne portrays himself as the victim, and there's that narcissist video that touches on this. With Lorne, though, it goes further. I think with all of his whining, complaining, and crying, the therapist thought, wow, this guy has been through hell. He has suffered. People have betrayed him left and right. And this Paula that he keeps telling me about, whose story changes every week, who he first had sex with, then they were headed to a relationship, then they were about to get married. I don't know what he really said, but we do know what he tells people, a bunch of different versions. I think she said, Lorne, it sounds to me like you have something called betrayal syndrome. Let me explain what betrayal syndrome is. It is not, I was headed to a relationship. It is not, I had a one-night stand. Bullshit, as Lorne says. Lorne actually uses, this is what I think happened, real quick. She told him that, betrayal syndrome, and she gave him all the symptoms. And what these people with betrayal syndrome do is they take all of their problems. These are people that possibly have betrayal syndrome. They take all of their problems and they latch it onto their suspicions or theories. This is how they cope with it. This is how they deal with it. And look at what Lorne has done. Everything negative that has happened in his life, he is attached to some lie, some exaggerated story, some version of the truth that he feels is accurate. And who knows, he may believe some of it. But they attach their stuff to perceived trauma. But we're talking about trauma that comes from years of marriage. And what I was getting ready to say was, Lorne shows this attempt, I guess, at garnering sympathy, and he says, something seems off to me, but we've talked about that relationship OCD. I'm wondering if in these psych sessions, they didn't tell him, look, people with betrayal syndrome, they always thought something was going on. They could never put their finger on it. They were gaslit. If this is happening in your relationship and you think that someone is cheating and they keep gaslighting you, chances are you're going to end up having betrayal syndrome. because that's a common trait of cheaters. Keep that in mind. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Lorne Armstrong. He mimics that. And I think it's because his psychologist told him what the traits are, what the symptoms are, things that people deal with when they have this syndrome, when they have this real trauma. Real trauma would have been an abusive father who abused the children for years. There's a family I know. They are broken to this day because of what their father did, the way he was to them. Not sexually abusive, but mentally, verbally, physically abusive. So I think those people, they can stake a claim to betrayal trauma, betrayal syndrome, but not Lorne. Lorne, during his conversation with Ramona, "What the fuck would my dad leave? And you had a great life, Lorne, but you wasted it. You screwed it up. You didn't appreciate it. You wanted to be the man of the house, I'm sure." I'm not really talking about that. But that's Lorne, latching on to anything that he could possibly blame for his behavior. They have to deal with it. And the way they deal with it, and you may have friends like this, they talk about it over and over and over again until you're pretty much at the point where you don't want to hear any more about it. It's just like, geez, man, how many times can we talk about this? Now, over time, it's going to lessen. Their aggressiveness is going to lessen. The toxicity is going to go down. It's going to work itself out. But you have to choose, do I want to sit around for possibly years of listening to this woman or man go off about their spouse cheating on them, betraying them? And we were talking about the gaslighting. And I told you what happened to me. It was Christmas Eve, and I found out everything that had been going on for the past 6, 7, 8 months on Christmas Eve, and I didn't even ask. I have every right to feel betrayal syndrome, but I don't. Because what's the point? And it takes two, and the divorce didn't happen just because of her. It happened because of both of us. So I just let it go, but Lorne can't. He can never accept his half. So I bet he sees what everybody else does as gaslighting. Maybe that's where he learned it. Maybe the psychologist told him, look, this is what happens. You get gaslit. You suspected something was going on. You just couldn't put your finger on it. I was trying to do a Lorne impression. It didn't come out that great. But you couldn't put your finger on it. And then it all came to light. And then you realized all of those lies they were telling you. And in his head, I bet with Paula, he, and looking back, probably thinks that Paula was telling him, you know, the 2 seconds they talked, yeah, we've broken up. Now Lorne, to this day, claims that Paula is the reason he can't have a relationship. But even the psychologist, as he gets older, he can't keep up the lie. He's exhausted. His video with Jamie, I know you say you don't understand it, but I do. So, and it wasn't the determination, it wasn't that I'm sitting in a chair staring at the camera, I'm being all serious. It was almost a realization that, holy shit, I've said this so many times, and look at where I'm at. Again, with Paula, the betrayal syndrome, the act is, it's Academy Award winning. If you're married, or if you've been married, or you were in a long-term relationship, and they cheated on you, you have a right to feel that way. You don't have a right to project it onto others, but it's going to happen most likely. For some reason, Lorne has it in his head that he was in this long-term relationship with Paula because only that amount of trauma would justify what happened or what he keeps saying, the way he treats people. Lorne doesn't understand the difference between stress and trauma. Let me give you an example. You and your husband or wife or girlfriend, boyfriend, you're talking, and there's a brand new job that opened up in another city. One that's going to make your life so much better. Now, it's stressful. Now, chances are this is a girlfriend-boyfriend situation. It's stressful. And that other person has to choose, is this incredible opportunity worth more than this relationship? Most relationships are a blip before marriage. There are plenty of fish in the sea, as Casey told Lorne. You can go out and find somebody. He can't. But this would be a conversation you'd have, and it would be stressful. It would not be trauma. What would be trauma is a 5-year relationship, 6 years. The amount of time Lorne's been in prison, 5 to 6 years. It would be all of a sudden they leave. They don't even tell you. They just up and leave. And they go to that new job, and maybe there's somebody else waiting for them. Then you find out about it. Stressful situations, they can leave a mark, but trauma is a strong word. And I'm sure Lorne was told, oh, you told me about your past, you told me about your dad left, and you've got all this childhood trauma and everything else. And I've told you, I didn't even know he had a stepdad. One that raised him, one that tried to teach him what it is to be a man. It's, in my opinion, there is nothing in his life that he hasn't caused. There's nothing in his life that would have been traumatic, real trauma. The only trauma he's caused, think about the sting. He sees that as trauma, and yes, it probably is. Being put on national television, going to prison, putting yourself in protective custody, constantly worrying about whether or not you're going to become a mark, a victim. That's trauma that he caused. Yeah, but he can't use it on anything that has nothing to do with relationships. The Amanda James thing that he claims is the source of his trauma. Got catfish, sent Dale Earnhardt Jr. That was his choice. These catfish women, all the signs were there. That was his choice. He can't go out and get a real woman because, well, look at him. Look at his charge. And he's lazy. So he's creating all of this trauma. He's creating all of the drama. Situations are fluid. Lorne talks about trust. Seemed like someone I could trust. After I gave you all my fucking trust. Lorne doesn't understand situations are fluid. Things change. People grow apart. Things just don't work out. But he latches on to whatever he can, and he's going to jump right into it. Look at the not the catfish, but yeah, it was a catfish situation with the scammers. He wrote him a poem. It took a while for this loan to go through. I believe in you. Lorne jumps in, doesn't think about it. He just wants to be a part of something, anything. Why did that scam seem so appealing? Because he could just sit at home and get rich. With Lorne, he latches onto everything. Now, he gets obsessed. Trust is not obsession, Lorne. You focus solely on them, and you're putting all of your money, like you're betting on 23 red or 23 black. You're betting the house on those numbers. The odds of it hitting are very small. Think about everything you've done in life. How many of those things that you've attempted have really panned out? You look at yourself and where you are, and you ask, is this really where I want to be? Is this where I thought I was going to end up? As a kid, I wanted to be this. As a teenager, I wanted to be that. As a young adult, I saw myself here. Everybody sees themselves, well, not everybody, but as millionaires, high-paying job, they've got some kind of notoriety, money. I'm sure Lorne saw that, but he never put in any work. He didn't realize, man, I'm 87 out of 87. I was handed my diploma. I didn't graduate. So he dives in to anything that might make him feel like he's successful. And the whole, I gave you all my trust. I thought I could trust her. I thought I could trust you. Lorne puts himself in these precarious situations where they don't work out because he doesn't think, and he can't think more than one move ahead, which is why he should never play chess. He should play checkers against two. You know what? I was going to say against kids, but yeah. I'm going to watch that statement. I don't think I should say it. So, to him, when these situations don't work out, he is genuinely shocked. Well, I thought this was going to work out. Lorne, did you think about anything? Did you think about any of the aspects that went into this? Anything that could go wrong? Did you understand that life is not a straight line? Your family tree is a straight line, but life is not a straight line. It looks like somebody had a seizure while they were holding a pen. You don't get to go everywhere that you want to go. It's not a 6-point star. It's not a perfect circle. It's not a shape that you're going to recognize. Lorne, yours was a 4x4 cell. Whatever it was. You know what I'm saying. But to be perfectly honest with you, when you're dealing with someone who freaks out at every little thing and it becomes a giant deal, Lorne doesn't have anything going on. So even like a mailbox in the possession of his neighbors, that was traumatic to him. Fucking Uncle Clay. Given the trailer that he's living in, given everything that he has, he's never earned anything. Maybe he has. Maybe he earned that giant CRT monitor he had while he was trying to woo Kayla over the internet. I have no idea what this man has earned in his life, but it can be a lot. He's never earned an accolade, I can tell you that. It crosses over into victim syndrome. But Lorne makes everything out that his trust was broken, and now because of his past, because of my past, I act this way. It's just calm and slow. He's never going to change. He will not change how he reacts to things. He will not change how he jumps head first into things, how he latches on to the first person that shows him any interest, which is why he latches on to anything he thinks is traumatic in his life. Any mistake he's made that he caused, he latches on to it. And that's important because it explains a lot of why this man just can't seem to get past things that most people would have just blinked and it was gone. As Charlie Sheen said, I blinked and it cured my brain. It's so much easier for him to dwell on the past than it is to accept his present and to plan for the future. I do look to the past sometimes. I do enjoy recollecting crazy memories from the Marine Corps, crazy stuff I did back in school, past successes. He doesn't have any past successes, I don't think, which is why he can only focus on his past failures. Everything in his life was created. He may have had one thing that he didn't have a hand in creating. I take that back. He may have had one thing where he didn't do 51% of screwing himself. It would have been somebody else's fault. Lorne projects. He projects onto everyone else. It's a coping mechanism for a lot of things. But this betrayal trauma, I say syndrome because it's a larger thing, but we're talking about betrayal trauma. Go back and listen to the calls. Go back and listen to all of them. Listen to the bullcrap stories he tells. Listen to how he makes them into such a big deal. This jackass latched on to macaroni and cheese, deviled eggs, and meatballs. He latched on to food not getting to him after he gave them money. He created that situation. He created what he perceived as trauma. He blames the sting on everybody else. And that was a traumatic experience, as I've said before. But you can't blame it on stupidity. Or you can blame it on stupidity. You can't blame it on everyone else for your stupidity. And I think if I sat Lorne down, I'd ask him, Lorne, did they ever speak to you about betrayal trauma? Oh, I don't remember. I can tell you in 3 to 4 years. Did they ever speak to you about betrayal trauma, Lorne? Did they ever speak to you about it? Well, they talked to me about betrayal and about how I'm a victim and about... Lorne, I bet you they talked about how not to be a victim, how not to play the victim. You did everything, Lorne. The one time that you got genuinely screwed over in 6th grade when little Jenny kissed little Timmy and betrayed all your fucking trust. And you've held on to that. When asked about childhood stuff, he couldn't recall anything. Tell me something that no one else knows. Okay, here's a traumatic experience. Here's something I'm going to share with you that I've not shared with anyone else. He has to think, and he has to lie. He had a good life. No one betrayed him. He's a stalker. He created all of those situations where people had to intervene. The cops had to intervene because he was trying to diddle children. Unfortunately, for his real victims, nobody intervened. We all have suspicions about how he acted around his nieces. Come sit on Uncle Creepy's lap. I'm playing the guitar. Come sit on my lap. I'll teach you how to play it. Reach over her. Help her pluck the strings. I have a lot of scenarios we could probably theorize happened with Uncle Creepy. Lorne, you don't have any trauma in your life where you should feel betrayed. He probably feels betrayed because of the decoy. He doesn't understand that the decoy was there because he was trying to diddle her. That happened because you were trying to victimize a child. But you saw it as betrayal by Chris Hansen, NBC, the cops, not your own actions. So again, Lorne's victim trauma is imaginary. He doesn't have any betrayal trauma. If he could produce one legitimate situation where he was betrayed and he could justify this was a big problem in my life. Some betrayal trauma sticks with people for life. But I don't think he could name it. And I don't think he has earned the right to claim he has any betrayal trauma. There are people out there who have it, and they went through it. People with real betrayal trauma, they go back and try to find out what happened. They look at things that led up to the trauma. He will never do that. He will never go back and reflect, which is why he will always be a failure. Those are my thoughts on him and his victimization and his role-playing that he has betrayal trauma. Trust. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.